Okay, so Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, he's in the news all the time. He's now finally giving his first public response to former President Trump. Former President Trump has been very vocal on Truth Social, writing that he would never have endorsed DeSantis if he knew he had voted against a border security bill in 2018. He also reposted a meme suggesting DeSantis was at a party with underage girls while he was a high school teacher. DeSantis brushing it off.
I spend my time delivering results for the people of Florida and fighting against Joe Biden. That's how I spend my time. I don't spend my time trying to smear other Republicans.
Okay, and really, this is the first time, as we said, that he has said anything that alludes to the former president's recent comments. Julia Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill, with me right now. Julia, so let's get into it. DeSantis appears to be taking the high road with the former president. I mean, is this strategic, or is this just enough is enough? I have to say something.
Yeah, Adrienne, it's interesting because he's been actually doing this for a few weeks now. We know that last week or the week before, Ron DeSantis was asked about recent comments President Trump made about him, and which President Trump sort of, hit the Florida governor. And DeSantis said, look, I won my election. I won my election by a landslide. And that was clearly a jab at the former president in telling him that, look, he lost his election in 2020, and that in the nationwide midterm elections, Florida was one of the only states that really saw a red wave. So this is strategic on Ron DeSantis's part, because he's going to have to learn how to deal with these attacks from Donald Trump, which are going to be coming in on potentially a daily basis as it gets closer to DeSantis jumping in the race and, assuming he eventually jumps into the race. So DeSantis very much trying to take the high road and focus on those results, whether it's policy related or politically.
And it's not just a personal matter, because clearly we've known for some time now that former President Trump thinks that Governor DeSantis is ungrateful, that he is the reason why DeSantis got elected at all in Florida, with some evidence to that effect. But there was also recent comments about Governor DeSantis kind of trying to change the narrative surrounding his approach to COVID-19. Former President Trump pointing out that the governor first locked down the state, and now making this very vocal stance, saying that they will not have mandates, they will not have vaccine requirements. Do you think Republicans feel they have to choose sides between the two?
Yeah, I think Republicans not only feel that they have to choose sides between the two men, but also between more people who are coming into the race or slated to come into the race. It's interesting. There was a poll out that showed essentially where the support was going from GOP primary voters to Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, and Nikki Haley, who was slated to announce her presidential bid next week. And it showed that Nikki Haley was actually pulling some support from Ron DeSantis. So as we get more of these Republican figures jumping into this primary, we're going to see where voters sort of pick sides. But I think one thing is clear. While Donald Trump is still very much viewed as the de facto leader of the Republican Party, he's still very much leading in these hypothetical 2024 polls. There is a sense within Republicans, and we saw Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders say this in her State of the Union response on Tuesday night, there needs to be more new blood, young blood in the party. And when you put Ron DeSantis versus Donald Trump, it's obvious to see that Ron DeSantis represents the young blood of the Republican Party.
We'll see. All right, Julia Manchester, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.